Here are two more examples. So this is still a reducible quadratic because, as you can tell, the coefficient, not the coefficient, the exponent here, which is a 1, if I multiply it by 2, I get a 2. Okay, so what would u be in this case? Well, u is going to be this part. U is going to be x minus 2. Okay, so u squared is going to be equal to x plus 2 squared. Okay, so we're just going to do a direct substitution. So this is going to be u squared. That whole thing is squared. Then this is going to be plus 7u plus 12 equals 0. Okay, now let's go ahead and factor this. So two numbers that multiply to get 12 and also add up to get 7. In this case, it's going to be 4 and 3. So you get u plus 4 and u plus 3. So I'm going to break these off into two different sets. So u plus 4 equals 0. U plus 3 equals 0. So u here is going to be negative 4. That is my first answer. Then u here is going to be negative 3. That's my second answer. Okay, so now, remember, we don't want u's, we want x's. Okay, so u is equal to x minus 2, which is what we want. So u equals negative 4 is going to be the first one, so I'm going to have negative 4 equals x minus 2. Now I just got to solve for this x. So I'm going to add a 2 to the other side. So x is equal to negative 2. That is my first answer, and you can check and you'll see that it actually works. Then for the next one, u is still equal to x minus 2. My u in this case is going to be negative 3. So negative 3 is equal to x minus 2. I'm going to add this 2 over. So x is equal to negative 1. You can check this also, and you'll see that this also checks out. Okay, so here's one more example. Okay, so this one you can see that it is also can be reduced as a quadratic because I can multiply this by a 2 and you'll get this negative 2. So that means I'm going to let u equal this variable, which is going to be the x to the negative 1. And u squared is going to be equal to this x to the negative 2. That's what u squared is going to be. Okay, so my answer is going to be 6x squared plus 13, oh, that's wrong, 6u squared plus 13u plus 5 is equal to 0. Okay, now this one, we can factor or we can use quadratic formula. If you feel really unsure on how to factor this, you can always use the quadratic formula. That's also completely fine. And let's actually use the quadratic formula. I've been using factoring a lot more, but let's use the quadratic formula here. You can factor this. This actually can be factored. So u is equal to negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A in this case is equal to 6, b equals 13, and c equals 5. Okay, so what I'm going to get, let me plug everything in there. So I'm going to have negative b, negative 13 plus or minus square root 13 squared minus 4a, which is 6, b, which is 5, divided by 2 times a, which is 6. Okay, I'm going to negative 13 plus or minus square root of 169 minus, so 4 times 6 times 5 is going to give me 120 divided by 12. Okay, so now this is going to give me negative 13 plus or minus 169 minus 120 will give me the square root of 49 divided by 12, which in turn gives me negative 13 plus or minus 7 divided by 12. So this is going to give me negative 13 plus 7 divided by 12 and negative 13 minus 7 divided by 12. Okay, so I'm going to take negative 13 plus 7, and then I'm going to divide that by 12. This is going to give me negative 1/2. And the other one's going to be negative 13 minus 7. And I'm also going to divide that by 12. Okay, And what I'm going to get is negative 5 over 3. Okay, now remember, these are not x values. These are u values because I'm solving for u. So u in this case equals negative 1/2, and u also equals negative 5/3. Okay, you might have gotten a decimal. It's better to keep it as a fraction. Okay, so now we don't want u, we want x. So remember, our u value that we initially said was that u equals x to the negative 1. Okay, now this might be looking really weird, x to the negative 1. Remember that x to the negative 1 is just basically 1 over x. Okay, all right, so now let's first look at the first u value. So the first u equals negative 1/2. Okay, so let's plug it in there. So negative 1/2 is equal to 1 over x. Okay, I can cross multiply here. So I'm going to get negative x equals 2. So x equals negative 2. So that's my first one. So what I did here, I just cross multiplied negative 1 times x, just gives me negative x. And then that looks really ugly. Let me do this one more time. So you had negative 1 over 2 equals 1 over x. So I'm taking these things, x times negative 1, that gives me this part. 1 times 2, that gives me that part, and then I just solve. For the other one, u is equal to negative 5/3. So I'm going to have negative 5 over 3 equals 1 over x. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing, cross multiply. It's going to give me negative 5 is equal to 3. So x in this case is going to be equal to negative 3 over 5. Okay, and that's my answer. So this problem is actually going to be as complicated as it gets. The one where it has the x to the negative 2, x to the negative 1. So those are just problems that I really want you to try to look at. So anything that has from the other two that we did in the other video, and these other two.